the one, the only Benzion. Okay, good morning. Welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Iyun with Benzion. Today we're doing Maseches Nazir Daf Mem Ches. The Gemara today continues to discuss by Nazir and Kohen Gadol the special permission to Matame Lameis Mitzvah. Nazir and Kohen Gadol, even though they're not Matame for Zayin Krovim, in contradistinction to a Kohen Hedyodah who is allowed to bury the Zayin Krovim, even though he's Muzar on Tuma. He can't be Matame himself. Kohen Gadol and Nazir are not allowed to, but for a Meis Mitzvah they are. A Meis Mitzvah is someone who's a corpse which is not going to be buried, at least in the foreseeable future. He's left on the side of the road. No one's going to bury him. Meis Mitzvah he's allowed to, even if you're Nazir and a Kohen Gadol. So what is so special about a Meis Mitzvah? Why is the Meis Mitzvah fundamentally different? So there's two ways you can understand this. One way you can understand it is because a Meis Mitzvah has no one to bury him. So therefore he's a Meis which is mutal b'bizayon. He's in a situation of disgrace. Maybe it's painful, very painful for a dead person not to be buried. The Gemara discusses many times how it's nitan l'kvura. The Gemara says about tova metiv. You say the fourth bracha on benching, right? Haruge beitar. Not only didn't they decompose, but they were nitan l'kvura. It's very important to be buried, according to halacha. In Judaism, it's very important to be buried. And there's zakah here in Israel. You know, if there's a terrorist attack, they go after every limb and bone and even amount of revius of blood, there's ice of blood. They make sure that it's buried. So it's very important to be buried. Or is the heter to bury a Meis Mitzvah is simply just because there's no one else to bury him, right? It's because there's no one else, right? There's a mitzvah of kura. I see a Meis Mitzvah. There's no one else to do it. So the mitzvah of kura has to be done. It's not because there's a special bizayon by a Meis Mitzvah. It's practically, there's no one else to bury him. So there's two ways, if we trace it back to a Kohen Hedyodah who's allowed to Matame for his Zayin Krovim, right? The reason, presumably, a Kohen Hedyodah is allowed to Matame for Zayin Krovim is because for your Zayin Krovim, you're close to that person, you're relative to that person. So you have a mitzvah of Kura. The Gemara in Sanhedrin says, right? The Gemara dashes from a pasuk. There's a mitzvah of Kura, a mitzvah of Kura. Midol Reich says a mitzvah to bury someone. So who is the mitzvah mutal, and who are the people that are responsible for the mitzvah? The Zayin Krovim. Let's say there's other people. Nowadays, it's very common to have Chevra Kadisha, other people to bury the person. So a Kohen, right, who has Zayin Krovim, he's allowed to bury them. Now, I think the simple explanation, understanding that is essay docha lo saseh. They have a mitzvah of an essay to bury them. It's docha the lo saseh. So how does that work? Is the pshat that it's hutra or dechuya? Hutra or dechuya really mean like this. Dechuya means basically that the essay pushes away the lav. But if there's a way of doing it without pushing away the lav, it's better. It's better not to do that. Hutra means no, it doesn't make a difference whether there's a lot of people around. There's other people to bury the person, right? It's afshar binyan achar. You could do it in a different way. Nonetheless, it's completely mutter. There's no isser over here. Do we say that there's no isser for a Kohen, or do we say there is an isser for a Kohen? Nonetheless, the Torah says do it anyway. I advise you to do it because doing the mitzvah of kura is better than violating the law. You violate the law. You don't get malchus, but you violate the law. But the Torah says it's more important to do the mitzvah. Essay dochalos say. The Ramban says essay dochalos say. Mitzvahs essay are representative of Avos Hashem. Los say are Yiras Hashem. Avos Hashem is greater than Yiras Hashem. So one's greater than the other doesn't mean there's no isser. It just means that's Torah's recommending. That's what you should do. So how does this play over here? So if we say that the heter by Nazir and Kohen Gadol to bury a Meis Mitzvah, it's simply because there's no one else to bury him. Meis Mitzvah, there's no one else to bury him. There's no one else around. He's not going to be buried. So you're the one who has the mitzvah. So when it comes to a Kohen Gadol and Nazir burying their Zayin Krovim, right? So in a case where there's no one else to bury it, of course, it's a Meis Mitzvah, right? So it must be that the heter by Kohen Hedyodah to bury the Zayin Krovim, right? By a Kohen Gadol and Nazir, they can't bury the Zayin Krovim, right? Even if it's a case, meaning Kohen Gadol and Nazir is not a case of Hutra, it's the Chuya, right? it's the chuya. And meaning what Kohen has to be better than Kohen Gadol. Kohen Hedyot has to be better than Kohen Gadol. So it must be the heter of Kohen Hedyot is something that Kohen Gadol and Nazir don't have, right? So if we're going to say that the whole idea of Meis Mitzvah is because the Chuy, there's no one else to bury him, so it must be the heter of Kohen Hedyot is Torah's Hutra. It's Hutra. And therefore, even if there's someone else to bury him, it's your mitzvah. There's no Israel at all in burying him because that's your mitzvah. Kohen Gadol and Nazir, right? Nonetheless, Torah says there's someone else to do it. You should do it. Obviously, Kohen Gadol and Nazir, if there's no one else to do it, is a Meis Mitzvah. That is a Meis Mitzvah. So, according to this, we learned that the Kohen Hedyot is it's Hutra over there. It's mutter. It's completely mutter. And even if there's someone else to bury him, you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to do it. However, if you learn that the heter of Meis Mitzvah has nothing to do so much with the fact there's no one else to bury him, it's because it's especially grievous, the fact that he's mutal b'vizayon, there's no one to bury him, and we're worried about that. Even delaying the burial is significant. So maybe you can say a little bit different, like this: that really a Kohen Hedyot is allowed to bury the Zayin Krovim, but that's not B'Torah's Hutra; it's B'Torah's Zechuya. B'Torah's Zechuya means Esei Dochalos, say, meaning really you violate the Isser. Torah says though, Torah advises you it's better to do the essay and violate the Los Hasei. Right now, like Hutra means there's no Isser. Hutra means mutter. The Chuy means Esei Dochalos, which is actually the Lashon Esei Dochalos, meaning it pushes away. Like the Ramban says, the Av Hashem is greater than yours, Hashem. You're violating the Isser, but Torah says the mitzvah of Kura is better. Is better than that for a Kohen Gadol and a Nazir who have more kedusha. So the Torah doesn't recommend it. The whole concept is the chuya. So Kohen Gadol and Nazir, Torah doesn't recommend it. And the reason Meis Mitzvah is because, right? The reason Meis Mitzvah is more significant that a Kohen Gadol and Nazir are allowed to bury a Meis Mitzvah is because he's especially mutal b'Zion. Meaning, Meis Mitzvah is only talking about a case where the burial is going to be delayed or it's not going to happen. So therefore, like even we learned before that it's called a Meis Mitzvah. It's called a Meis Mitzvah, even if it's called a Meis Mitzvah, even if the Kohen Gadol and Nazir are on the path, right, and they can technically call for help, it'll just take longer. A Meis Mitzvah is more severe because there's an element of bizayon. There's an element of delaying the burial. It's painful for the mace. So therefore, the Torah says in that case, right, that even for a Nazir or Kohen Gadol, it's worth it for them to violate their tumah because of that. Right? What's the case? Nazir and Kohen Gadol can't bury it. They can't bury it when it's not a Meis Mitzvah, when there's someone else to bury it. When there's someone else to bury it, right, we recommend don't do it because you have Kedusha. When there's a Meis Mitzvah, we do recommend. We say because of the delay and the hurt and the embarrassment, so therefore do it. So the two ways of understanding this basically tell you what the heter by a Kohen Hedyot burying the Zayin Krovim. Is it the first way we suggested that it's mutter, completely mutter. Therefore, if there's other people to do it, you still should do it. There's no Isser to do it. Or is it really the chuya, and really technically it's better, according to this, if there's other people, Chevra Kedisha to do it, it's better to do it. The Torah says it allows you to do it if you want to. There's other people around. If you want to, you could, right? Because Esi is greater than Los Aseh, but really the recommended way would be to let someone, the Chevra Kedisha, to do it. And that's a big nafkamina by a Kohen burying one of the Zayin Krovim. Do we say it? Hutra? There's no Isser at all, or maybe there is an Isser. And if there's other people available, it's better to do it with it. The Torah just allows you and says you don't. It's discretionary. You're allowed to go ahead and if you feel close to a kinship with the Zayin Krovim, you're allowed to go bury them. You're doing an Isra. The essay is greater than the Isra. Like Nazir Kohen Gadol, it doesn't apply because they have a lot of kedusha. But preferably, it's better to use the Chevra Kedisha. That's the nafkamina. I would say like the second side. Really, it's the chuya, and therefore it's better to use the Chevra Kedisha if you're a Kohen. Hope you enjoyed today's share. See you in the next one.